Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Social Sciences, SOSS. Master of Arts, Economics, MEC. Second year, MEC 106 Public Economics. Block 1 Basic Concepts of Public Economics. Unit 1 Welfare Foundations of Economic Policies, 1.0 Objectives. After reading this unit, you will be able to outline the interface between the objective of public economics with that of the principles of welfare economics. Discuss the welfare concepts, inbred in the different forms of social welfare functions, which form the foundation of policies in public economics. Show how the welfare foundations of economic policies in a competitive market is guided by Pareto criterion. Explain how by redistribution, a socially more desired welfare level can be attained by considering the utility possibility frontier. State the three compensation principles of redistribution for attaining of better welfare levels in society, and describe the different contexts in which the welfare criteria are applied in public economics. 1.1 Introduction. Any economy offers scope for policy interventions by the government, although the degree varies depending on the institutional setup of the economy. A competitive market-based economy is largely dominated by actions of individual decision-making agents, like households and firms. On the other hand, a command economy is largely dictated by the government policy planners. In both types, government is needed for appropriate policy interventions when the economy does not perform as desired. This issue of desirable outcomes of actions performed by agents, either in a market or a command economy, leads to the consideration of welfare of individuals in the economy. The market economy has very strong welfare theorems that provide the yardstick for its optimal performance. In the command economy also, individual welfare cannot be ignored. Although the role of government in determining the welfare of an individual is much stronger in scope relative to a market economy, the present unit will focus mainly on the welfare foundations of economic policies in a competitive market economy. 1.2 Public Economics and Welfare. Economics, Interface. The basic objective of public economics is to provide insights for policy interventions by the government to correct any distortion prevailing in the decision-making space of various agents in the economy. The main characteristic of a competitive market economy is the existence of large number of buyers and sellers who are fully informed and do not face any barriers or transactions costs for entry and exit in the markets. The markets may be for goods and services or for factors of production. The distortions may appear in the form of monopoly or monopsony power for sellers or buyers, taxes on or subsidies to firms or households, existence of public goods where individual ownership or consumption is impossible, or external economies or diseconomies which affect individuals even though they are not directly involved in the concerned activities. All these cases are examples where the individual agents fail to attain their optimal welfare levels. Further, if individuals are not able to attain their optimum, it is not expected that the aggregate welfare of the economy, as represented by some kind of social welfare function, will be able to attain its optimum. The above outline puts the welfare issues involved in any government intervention in its perspective. Any policy measure undertaken by the government in such a competitive market economy is solely aimed at improving the outcome of the decentralized actions of the individual agents in the economy. This therefore forms the core or principle of public economics in its theoretical perspective. If households consume with the main objective of maximizing their utility, then with any distortion in the functioning of the competitive economy, the consumers will be left with a lower level of utility than the maximum. Welfare, in whatever sense we define it, will then be dependent on individual utility levels. In such situations, government has to devise suitable policy interventions to correct the outcome, leading the economy to its optimum. Thus, welfare considerations form the backbone of economic policies in general and any public economics-oriented decisions in particular. Public economics has therefore considerable overlaps with welfare economics. There is still a clear demarcation between the two in the sense that welfare economics deals mostly with aggregate levels of welfare, though it is nothing but aggregation of individual utility levels, while public economics focuses on representative individual buyer or seller, since in a competitive market economy, the buyers will be assumed to be identical as also the sellers. Therefore, in public economics, welfare is often measured as the sum of consumers' surplus, in terms of utility, producers' surplus, in terms of profit, and government surplus, in terms of net tax revenue. Thus, unlike the social welfare concept frequently encountered in welfare economics, public economics views any kind of surplus to be welfare enhancing. This perspective is essential to pinpoint the features of those welfare considerations which will form the basis of public economics. 1.3 Concept of welfare. The definition of social welfare in economic literature is based on an individualistic approach, Graf, 1975, Green, 1976. This implies that the overall welfare of the society essentially depends on the individual utility levels, and as such will follow many properties of individual utility functions. But the economic policies in a competitive market economy start with a very simple assumption that individuals derive utility from their own consumption of goods and services and are not influenced by consumption of their neighbors. As a result, the social welfare function is individual-centric, ignoring such aspects as social networks prevalent in many developing economies. In social networks, the actions of groups influence individuals' utility, e.g. self-help groups or tribal village networks. Hence, the predominant ideas in public economics are governed by welfare concepts rooted in individualistic utility levels. We, therefore, highlight in this section the welfare concepts which form the basic foundations of economic policies discussed in public economics. 1.3.1 Social Welfare Function, SWF. Suppose in an economy, there are m numbers of individuals who derive their utilities from quantity consumed of n number of goods. Let the utility of the ith individual be defined as U, I, where I equals A, B, C, M. Then the social welfare function, SWF, is defined as W equals W, U powers A, U powers B, U powers C, U powers M. 1.1. Where the ith individual derived his utility from his own consumption of the n goods in the economy, such that U I equals U I, Chi 1, Chi 2, Keen, where Key equals amount of J, th good consumed by ith individual, J equals 1, 2, n. The individual utility functions satisfy the standard properties assumed in neoclassical theory of consumer behavior. However, such a SWF raises the question on what weights should be assigned to individuals. Do they get equal weights or should it be different for individuals? In case they are different, what should be the criteria for determining individual weights? Additional issues include whether consumption of future generations should also be included in SWF. The only property which is imposed on the SWF is the Pareto criterion, suggested by Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto, 1929. This means welfare increases if one individual's utility increases without any change in anyone else's utility. In other words, welfare increases if one individual is better off and nobody else is worse off. In an analogy to individuals, one can hold the social welfare at a fixed level and redistribute utility among the individuals so that the social welfare does not change. In case of only two individuals in the society, one can plot the locus of various such combinations of utility levels of the two individuals which yield a fixed level of social welfare. Such a locus is called the social indifference curve. SIC. If the utility functions of individuals give rise to convex-shaped indifference curves due to diminishing marginal rate of substitution, misses, then the SIC will also be convex to the origin. Fig. 1.1. The standard social indifference curves in the Fig are derived from individual utility levels of two individuals labeled as A and B. Clearly, by Pareto criterion, B is a superior point to A since B is better off in B than A without hurting A. Also, point C is valued more by society than point A since C lies on a higher SIC. However, the society is indifferent between positions C and B. Look at the screen. Fig. 1.1. Social indifference curves for a Paretian SWF. 1.3.2 Utilitarian SWF. An alternative type of utilitarian SWF was suggested by Jeremy Bentham, 1789. The form of the SWF suggested by Bentham is W equals U powers A, U powers B, U powers C, U powers M. 1.3. The above welfare function is additive in nature such that the society does not care much about the wealth position of the individuals. Thus, if some utility is taken away from a poor individual to a rich individual, the welfare will remain the same. This implies the gain and loss of the individuals are independent of their wealth positions. Hence, this welfare function does not overcome the individualistic nature of social welfare function that equation 1.2 does. In terms of social indifference curves, the SIC in this case is straight line having a slope of 45° with the two axes. The reason is that the society can trade off utility between the two individuals 1-to-1. Fig. 1.2, Utilitarian Social Indifference Curve, 1.3.3 Saitovsky-Bergson SWF. Saitovsky-Bergson, 1941-1938, suggested a type of SWF, rather class of social welfare functions, which satisfy the Pareto criterion without assuming the equality of gain and loss for individuals in the society. This shows that if a poor individual loses utility successively, then the rich have to gain increasingly more utility in order that the society can be indifferent for the redistribution. This does not hold for the utilitarian SWF considered in subsection 1.3.2. Bergson's welfare function overcomes some of the problems of Saitovsky's type function, i.e. Bergson's social welfare function is a frontier which envelopes the Saitovsky's community indifference curves. However, the basic welfare functions for either Bergson or Saitovsky look similar as they show aggregate welfare as a function of individual utility levels. Thus, it suffices for the present purpose to club them under the same type of SWF. That is, society cares for wealth position of each individual member. To put it differently, a transfer of income from the rich to the poor increases the utility values more for the poorer persons. The social indifference curves for this kind of situation is the same as in Fig. 1.1 above. 1.3.4 Rollston SWF. An extreme view about the SWF is put forward by John Rawls, 1971. His view is that welfare of the society depends on the welfare of the worst-off individual in the society. Thus, if the poorest person in the society is taken to be the worst-off individual, then social welfare will entirely depend on whether economic policies increase the welfare of that individual, irrespective of gain or loss of the better-off individuals in the society. In other words, even if the better-off individuals gain more utility on account of some policies, and the worst-off individual is left untouched, then welfare of the society will not increase. In terms of the social indifference curve, the SICs are L-shaped since fixing the utility of worst-off person at 0 will lead to no increase in social welfare no matter how much utility is increased for the other better-off individuals. 1.4 Efficiency and Pareto optimality. The welfare foundation of economic policies in a competitive market economy is clearly guided by Pareto criterion, which suggests that the most efficient solution in any economy is provided by a Pareto optimal situation. This leads to the first theorem of welfare economics. Welfare Theorem 1. In a competitive market economy which allows free trading among individuals, any mutually beneficial trading will result in efficient distribution of resources or goods. The above theorem suggests that market itself guides individuals to the best possible solution. As noted in section 1.3, if individuals could reach their maximum utility levels, the social welfare is also maximized. The theorem of welfare economics does not allow government intervention since it assumes away complications which deters individuals from pursuing their goal of utility maximization. Thus, the theorem shows that if individuals do not have external effects, i.e. neighbors' consumption affecting my utility, goods that are not divisible and jointly consumed do not exist, market does not fail due to existence of one buyer and seller holding complete market power, etc., the economy will automatically attain the most efficient solution. This can be shown in terms of a technique known as the Edgeworth-Bowley box, Fig. 1.4, look at the screen. Fig. 1.4, Edgeworth-Bowley box. The box in Fig. 1.4, named after Edgeworth and Bowley, shows that the welfare Theorem 1 leads to the Pareto optimal outcome in a competitive market economy. The box has two origins, one for individual R and the other at the northeast corner for individual B. So, it is a two-person and two-commodity simplified SWF on the individual decisions of only two persons. The indifference curves of the two individuals are based on their quantities consumed of the two goods, where the first good is measured for both on the horizontal axis and the second good too is measured on the vertical axis for both. The distance of the horizontal and vertical axis from the origin, drawn identical for both, shows the given endowment of the two goods. Note that, since we assume away production, to understand consumer behavior better we have to talk in terms of initial endowments of the two goods. The two utility levels UA0 and UB0 are like sustenance level indifference curves, below which the individuals will not choose any level of utility. To understand the importance of free trade among the individuals, let us suppose the initial solution is at the point L showing individual or at the sustenance level. It is always an improvement for the society to allow trading at the existing prices in order that the individuals land at the point F. This satisfies the Pareto criterion. Since individual B gains while individual A does not lose, i.e. suffer any loss. Thus, it is a Pareto optimal point from the point of view of welfare theorem 1. In fact, all the tangency points of the indifference curves of the two individuals satisfy Pareto criterion and is an improvement over any point outside the tangency points. The locus of these tangency points within the sustenance levels of the two individuals, i.e. FGH, is the contract curve. The curve shows that the optimal trading of the individuals for the available endowment of the two goods should always lie on this locus. The individuals will never deviate from this curve, as all the points here are Pareto optimal. In general, the points on the contract curve satisfies the equality that MRSA 12 equals MRSB 12, i.e. they should be equal to the prevailing price ratio. The Pareto optimality shows the most efficient solution for the economy is where there is a win-win situation for all the individuals. This also shows that economic policies cannot play any significant role since the market itself drives the economy toward the optimal solution. The problem, however, begins if one is interested to know which of the possible infinite number of combinations on the contract curve is the best among the optimal points. This brings the question of equity in the society, imposing additional value judgments on the relative position of individuals in the society. This also brings into focus the welfare theorem 2, which spells out the important role of economic policies for bringing the best among many optimal feasible situations in the economy. To know more about this, we first need to explain the concept of utility possibility frontier, UPF. 1.5 Utility possibility frontier. The contract curve in Fig. 1.4 shows the efficient allocation of goods among consumers maintaining Pareto optimality criterion. Any point of the contract curve is a suboptimal distribution, although one cannot say which of the infinite points on the contract locus is more desirable than the others. In order to understand this, we need to use the concept of utility possibility frontier, UPF. UPF is the locus of all possible optimal combinations of UR and OB lying on the contract locus. Since the total endowment of goods is given, an increase in one individual's utility can only come at the expense of utility of another individual. We first draw one such UPF in Fig. 1.5. Any movement from point A, which is inside the frontier, to any point in the northeast quadrant to point A, is welfare improving in Pareto sense. So points B, C and D are all improvements over as they satisfy the Pareto criterion, i.e. since somebody's welfare increases without reducing anybody's welfare. But which of these points B, D and C is the most desirable point to the society is clear as one moves from point B to point C, where utility of individual A is reduced but that of B is increased. Generally, UPF is concave to the origin, implying that if one takes away some utility from an individual A, then one has to compensate that loss by an increasing amount of utility given to another individual B. This becomes clear with the statement of welfare theorem 2. Look at the screen. Fig. 1.5 Utility possibility frontier. Welfare theorem 2. In a competitive market economy, given that the indifference curves of individuals satisfy the standard properties for any initial distribution of goods among the individuals, any point on the utility possibility frontier is a point of equilibrium. The above theorem implies that if the existing equilibrium point is not the one which is desirable from society's point of view, then a redistribution of income and as a result goods can lead to a more desirable outcome at some other Pareto optimal point. Thus, if point B is a Pareto optimal efficient equilibrium point, but at that point individual B gets more utility than individual A, and the society wants a better deal for A since A happens to be poorer than B, it requires a policy intervention so that the richer individual can be suitably taxed and the poorer individual subsidized so that the resulting redistribution of income leads to a new Pareto optimal equilibrium D with better distribution of utility. Recall that welfare theorem 1 suggests competitive market economy can generate Pareto optimal situation without any external policy intervention. However, all Pareto optimal situations may not be desirable since additional value judgments may place one Pareto optimal situation better than the others. This brings the welfare Theorem 2 into limelight for suggesting that starting from any initial distribution of income or goods, policy-induced redistribution can bring the desired Pareto optimal situation based on some value judgment of the society. 1.5.1 Compensation Principles. In cases where the redistribution improves the welfare of all individuals or groups, there are no issues. However, in case the redistribution results in some individuals losing out, there could be resistance from the losers to such a redistribution. To deal with such situations, some compensation principles are suggested by which the gainers compensate the losers and still have a net gain. The three most well-known compensation principles are the following: Henderson and Quant, 1971, pp. 279 to 280. The Kaldor criterion: allocation alpha is preferred by society to an alternative allocation beta if the gainers from a redistribution from alpha to beta can compensate the losers but still remain gainers. The Hicks criterion: allocation alpha is preferred by society to an alternative allocation beta if the losers cannot profitably bribe the gainers in not making such a redistribution. The Saitowski criterion: allocation alpha is preferred by society to an alternative allocation beta if the gainers could compensate the losers to make the change while the losers cannot profitably bribe the gainers in not making the change. Since this combines both the principles of Kaldor and Hicks, it is also called as Saitowski's double criteria. The main problem of the compensation principles is that they are all potential and not actual. Thus, it is entirely possible that the gainers do not compensate the losers in reality, or the losers do not make any effort to thwart the move of redistribution, although they could. 1.6 Application of welfare criteria in public economics. The above discussion on welfare and efficiency is relevant for various real-world issues. What is highlighted is that the most efficient solution to allocation of goods and resources depends on fulfillment of Pareto optimality condition. In case of preference for some particular Pareto optimal situation among the many possible ones, one needs to apply some compensation principle. Let us now see some application of these principles in specific economic contexts. 1.6.1 Monopoly power. Welfare maximization assumes a competitive market economy. The basic foundation of the competitive economy hinges on the existence of a large number of buyers and sellers. If this condition is violated, market witnesses conflict either on the part of seller or buyer. This will create problem in the Edgeworth-Bowley box. Although the diagram leaves out the production side, one can visualize the flavor of monopoly power on the part of buyer or seller. Suppose, instead of the given endowment of the two goods as assumed in drawing the Edgeworth box, the size of the box is given by the actual production of the two goods. This hardly changes the argument presented, but it will affect the size of the box depending upon the type of market structure. Let the production of commodity 1 be controlled by a monopolist, but the second commodity is produced by competitive sellers. Then by the standard neoclassical theory, the first seller will charge prices which will exceed the corresponding competitive price, and the quantity produced will be relatively less. As a result, the consumers will face prices which are not competitive, and hence the consumer will not be able to move along the contract curve but remain outside it. As a result, there will be inefficient outcome and the consumers will lose some utility compared to the competitive market solution. Policy intervention by the government can solve this to a great extent. In case the monopoly is a natural monopoly, since its production enjoys increasing returns to scale, or simply economies of scale. Larger the production, lower will be the per unit cost of production. As a result, the producer can simply drive out the competitors by undercutting their prices. Such situation may arise for utilities like water supply or power supply. Thus, it is not uncommon that these utilities are controlled by the government by law and they are known as public utilities. On the other hand, monopoly may arise for other reasons like patents. In such cases, government can constitute price regulatory bodies who oversee the pricing of these goods. This ensures monopolist cannot earn too high profits by taking away some utility from the consumers. In some cases, instead of monopoly, a cartel may be formed by some producers, like OPEC for oil producers. In this case also, prices are higher than competitive prices and consumers will be off the contract locus. Here also, government can subsidize the consumers so that they pay a price which comes closest to the competitive price. This will bring the consumers back to the contract curve again. A similar situation arises on the buyer's side as well. A common example is the Employers' associations in the labor market. For instance, if in the case of a niche good like 5th generation telephone handsets, only 2 producers produce it and plenty of workers are ready to offer their services, then the 2 producers can dictate the wages. In this case also price of labor becomes much lower than competitive wages and cause the workers to lose utility to the buyers of their labor services. In such cases, government may intervene to legally enforce minimum wage. Such cases also occur when the labor market becomes unorganized so that buyers wield considerable bargaining power. Here also, minimum wage laws could be a good policy intervention to bring efficient solution in the market. 1.6.2 Public goods. Pure public goods are those goods for which nobody can be excluded, and once this is available for consumption, it has to be jointly consumed. In this case, since the good cannot be privately owned, competitive market mechanism does not work. Thus, the Edgeworth-Boley diagram does not provide a correct solution. The main problem is that individuals will not reveal how much they are ready to pay for consuming the good, since it cannot be consumed solely by the individual. As a result, one cannot equate the marginal rate of substitution between a private and public good to their price ratio, since everybody will try to have a free ride, as nobody can be excluded from the goods consumption even if the individual does not pay anything. Common example cited in this context is a lighthouse. A similar example is the defense force, whose service is enjoyed equally by all citizens of a nation. In the absence of a market-determined price, the optimal point on the contract curve or utility possibility frontier cannot be determined, rendering welfare-based Pareto optimal criterion redundant. In such circumstances, government has to carefully devise a tax system which reflects true preferences of the individuals towards the public good. The taxes here will act similar to price, but determination of correct tax rate so that the individuals can maximize their utility is difficult. 1.6.3 Externalities. Externalities are commonly present in society but are very hard to control. A positive externality is an action on the part of consumers or producers, whereby action of one increases the utility of all others in that neighborhood. A garden in somebody's backyard may increase utility of all the neighbors through breeze and good scent. Similarly, if more schools increase the average knowledge level in a society, it not only helps the school goers but helps the whole society. On the side of negative externality, one may cite the existence of household enterprises in densely populated neighborhoods, whereby noise and air pollution adversely affects the health of all who reside there. Both kinds of externalities suggest action of some not only affects his or her utility, but utility of many others. Thus, the indifference curves of one individual are not independent of movement in such curves of another individual. As a result, the whole mechanism by which optimal welfare is determined becomes questionable, since the individuals, or firms, who create such externalities in many cases think about their private costs and benefits, as a result of which the goods or services carrying such externalities are most often either over or undersupplied. There would be significant difference between private and social benefits and costs. This calls for policy interventions on the part of government through tax and subsidies, i.e. taxing the negative externality creating activities and subsidizing the positive externality creating ones. 1.6.4 Imperfect information. One of the necessary conditions for the smooth operation of competitive market economy is perfect information on the part of both buyers and sellers. In case one of them has imperfect information, the amount of goods supplied may fall short of the desired amount, or the buyer may not get the right quality of the good. The welfare criteria discussed so far assumes that the consumers get utility from consumption of goods with perfect information of the product, so that the pricing of the goods does not deviate from its competitive optimum nor the quality of the product leads to lower than the desired utility from the consumption of the goods. In such cases, government needs to intervene for course correction. One example is drug control by government agencies, which is prevalent in many countries. The US Food and Drug Administration oversees the introduction as well as the efficacy of all drugs in United States and sets a benchmark for the world also. Another example is information provided by the Weather Bureau of a country, which helps sellers and buyers in various ways. Similarly, an agency like Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India, IRDAI, is given the responsibility of ensuring the right kind of insurance products to the customers, as the insurance market always has imperfect information. The sellers are likely to undersupply insurance in many instances, distorting the pricing of the goods. thereby throwing the consumers off the contract curve. 1.7 Summary. Public economics deals with economic policies pursued by governments of a nation based on some welfare considerations. The most accepted welfare criterion in a competitive market economy is the Pareto criterion. The welfare foundation of public policies is based on two important welfare theorems, one suggesting the importance of free trading in a competitive economy leading to welfare maximization, and the second one suggesting that starting from an initial distribution of resources, any distribution can be made optimal through compensatory redistributive policies in a competitive economy. Given this foundation, several applications of welfare maximization policies need attention. Under circumstances which violate the basic assumptions underlying the operation of a competitive market economy. These include monopoly power, public good, externalities and imperfect information. In case of occurrence of any such distortionary events, only appropriate public policies can correct the situation, contributing to the achievement of welfare maximization objectives of individuals in the society. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video with the next chapter.